All right, Myles, Andrew. This is a production of the Rookery Podcast Channel, the most purple podcast in sports media. To borrow a term from our mentor, is this apex mountain for the color purple? This day, is there a better day for the color purple, or a better moment?
Oh
Maybe
man, yeah. I don't know if I
could
would, I don't
Prince
know if
and
I would,
Purple
I
Rain?
would name it Apex Mountain, but it's up there.
Yeah, yeah. Andrew, you looked confused, man. Are you tracking with the color purple?
Because we got a combination of some reds and blues.
Exactly.
Oh, okay,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So, speaking of the election, do y'all wear your "I voted" sticker after you vote, or are you more just like throw it in the trash can? I'm too cool to wear stickers. Oh, still wearing it. Nice. Did you even
Oh
get one,
yeah.
Andrew?
I wore it in. I immediately went from the polls to Chipotle, and I wore it into the Chipotle, but I ripped it off
Did you take a picture with it on? Did you post it on your Instagram?
somewhere. Absolutely not.
Mm, yeah, understandable.
Absolutely not. Are
Didn't
you
want a
gonna
virtue
post
sticker.
something, Miles, on that little close friends story you always be posting on?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's only for Samara fit checks.
Oh
That's
yeah.
only what that's for. Um, well, we're not here to talk about the nuances of election culture. We're here to talk about, at least first, and maybe more important, not an election but a selection, the inaugural 2024 college football playoff rankings came out tonight. We're recording this on Tuesday evening, 7:43 Central Time, just to make sure. And initial rankings came out, and I've got to say, I'm not surprised by the top, but I've got some surprises everywhere else. So, just initial rankings, I'll just kind of list them out, and I want to hear you guys' instant reactions, Myles. So we'll come to you in just a second, but so we got Oregon number 1, Ohio State number 2, Georgia number 3, Miami number 4, Texas number 5. If I'm right, Penn State number 6, Tennessee number 7, and then number 8, Indiana, if I'm not mistaken, BYU, Notre Dame, Alabama, and Boise State. So, what was your instant reaction, Myles, to seeing the rankings drop tonight?
A lot of Big Ten, a lot of SEC.
Yeah.
Just feels like we're on a collision course for two major conferences within the next decade or so, and it just being essentially Eastern and Western Conference, and you kind of just take the best of those and kind of let them fill in the gaps a little bit. But yeah, I mean, there wasn't. I don't think there was any team that was in there that I was like they shouldn't be in there. Penn State after the loss, they still. I mean, they feel high, but again, that's only their first loss, so I guess it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm most surprised by Miami's placement. In my estimation, I thought that the top 4 was really clear in the fourth team being Texas. So I was surprised to see Miami ranked above them. Do you guys have any problems with that at this point?
So but Georgia is in the top 4, right?
Yes, Georgia's number 3.
Yeah, I mean, I would have Miami in there over Georgia. I would have if my top 4 would be Oregon, Ohio State, Miami, and Texas.
Okay.
And not Georgia. I mean, Carson Beck is any second now, gonna explode, and that team is just gonna they're not gonna stand a chance. I mean, they should have lost that game Saturday if it weren't for DJ Lagway. So, I mean, that's Beck literally doing everything in his power for them to lose again against another rival in conference matchup. So I'm souring a little bit on Georgia, more and more about a week, despite the dominance from that defensive front in the Texas game. just if you're not going to have a quarterback that's going to do it, man, I just can't. It's hard to trust you.
So even though Georgia has the head-to-head win, you would still, if they gave you a vote, you would have Georgia
Yep.
Georgia behind Texas,
Yep.
and it's because of the inconsistency at really with the offense, but at the quarterback position mainly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that. I think what my problem is with Miami is, it's a resume thing. Of course, you could say, well, they've won every game. Uh, who cares? But for them to have them ranked so highly when Notre Dame, who has a lot of similar opponents, is ranked in the 10 spot with their lone loss. They obviously have maybe the worst loss of the top 12. It seems like they're saying two opposite things about the ACC and about the quality of their schedules, which was surprising to me.
Yeah.
And Miami obviously their offenses looked good in all of their wins, at least in the second half. But Miami has similar problems to Georgia in that every meaningful game has been close,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not them. They don't really have like a convincing win in the last month and a half. It seems like.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised that the committee was so impressed with them. I'm surprised that you're even more impressed with them than the committee was.
Man, the Cam Ward part of it just can't be understated. I mean, that guy, we're talking about a dude that may end up being QB1 in the draft, and he's just a dog. Like when it comes playoff time, when it comes down
He's
the
their
stretch,
savior.
in these meaningful games, I think Cam Ward is going to win a game for Miami, like in the playoffs. Like it's going to be like, hey, it's fourth quarter. This team is down by 10. We need Cam Ward to do it twice. I think he'll do it. So I think because I think Miami's problem, whereas Georgia's problem is that offense, like Miami's problem just is the defense. Like it's the fact that every team knows, hey, if we're playing this team, we have to put up points because Ward can put up points whenever he wants, and they just throw on them. They just test them. They just test that secondary every single week, and every single team in the conference is having a lot of luck. But I also think there's a little bit of like what I told you. I think the ACC is very much so like, hey man, we could really use Miami being a Titan. It feels like there's been some like pivotal phone calls at the end of games. And I'm rarely a football conspiracy theorist, but I don't know. But even then, just the Cam Ward of it all deserves like some like real attention.
Yeah. What do you think is the difference that the committee sees between them and the only other undefeated team? Obviously Oregon at the top, but then Indiana's the only other undefeated team, and playing in a seemingly better conference, and has been more dominant in their wins. Why do you think there's such a gap in between those two teams in the committee's mind?
Yeah, that feels a little bit. I feel like maybe we don't, but I definitely overuse the word prestige. But that
Yeah.
feels like one of those. I think I don't even remember like preseason rankings where Indiana and Miami were. Like what was the gap between those two teams? But I think everybody, even as like great as Indiana has been, I would imagine the committee still wants to see them do it against a Titan. Whereas like for Miami, they don't necessarily. I don't think they care about the Titan part of it as long as they're gonna like win because of just like what the program has been. You know what I mean? Like there's just the name cachet and kind of where they sit in a lot of this in a lot of these rankings naturally. So, but I mean, Indiana probably is better than what 4 of the teams ahead of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They're putting themselves in a weird position when you think about it, because Indiana's last big game is they play Michigan this week, which is a brand big game. But then the next week, I think they travel to Ohio State, and they've already got, they're undefeated, but Penn State is still currently ahead of them in the rankings despite that. So what if Indiana puts on a better showing than Penn State did? That Indiana can't go up after a loss. They can't.
If Indiana puts on a better showing
against Ohio State
than Penn State did. Yeah, but I mean that was Sorry, we can get into the Penn State Ohio State game here in a second, but yes, that's fair.
So yeah, I mean maybe there's no better time than the present. So Penn State, I think I agree that while it was a close game on the scoreboard, it wasn't what we would say. Like Penn State didn't look like this top team,
Mm-hmm.
top 6 team.
Right.
So what was it that you saw from them that showed that doubt
Dude,
about their?
yeah, I mean, it's just all of the things that make them special. Like, and when you're like evaluating them before the game actually starts, none of it plays out in the game.
Hmm.
Like they like the thing that makes them probably special this year is the running back room. And I would say this was the same for last year. Like it's supposed to be this like pretty dominant running back room, dominant run game, and their defense is supposed to kind of just like shut you down a little bit. And neither one of those things really have like worked fully against Ohio State. Like they for the last 2 years at least they definitely haven't been able to like establish any type of like offensive identity. You never feel like they're gonna score when they have the ball. It's kind of like you're always hoping and waiting that man maybe they'll get a defensive turnover. Maybe there'll be some kind of like busted play and they'll like be able to like get their way downfield. Maybe they'll look out with good field position. But it doesn't feel like they like when they're on offense, you're not. Or at least I'm not watching them and being like, okay, they're gonna do something super creative. I love the way they use the tight end.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember his name, but I think that's just because he's a freaking ball player. Dude, just a dog. I don't necessarily know if that's like because of like insane scheming and play calling. And when you're playing Ohio State, you're playing like the best roster in college football. You gotta have that, and they don't have that. And because they don't have that against Ohio State, it like leads me to believe they wouldn't have that against. Um, they wouldn't have that if they're deep in the playoffs and play in Oregon, right? They wouldn't have that against a Miami. They wouldn't have that against even like a Clemson, who's out of there now. You know what I mean? So like, um, but even then, it's a 7 point game, and the last drive, that Penn State has the ball. You're frustrated because you're like, oh, you could have won this game. Like you had this game once again. So and then that forces you to like kind of like have this. That forces you to kind of have this conversation about Ohio State that you always have year after year. But like who are they really? Because you never can tell until postseason.
Yeah, I think I agree with the take on their offense. I, in a big game like that, just the exposure that happens in terms of like who do you really have, what do you really have that can win every play, every quarter, every game, or that for that game.
Right.
And Penn State's offense turned from creative to gimmicky in my mind really quick.
Mm-hmm.
In that their main, almost like their singular weapon was Tyler Warren, that tight end.
Yeah.
And lining him up at quarterback. They're doing these like kind of trick formations to get him open. And when it's getting to a point now this deep in the season where teams are going to be keying in on those things, they're going to be able to scheme for and watch for when he lines up in unusual places. They're trying to get him the ball, and if they don't have these counter options or these kind of decoy plays built into those, then their ceiling gets a lot lower. So that I think and maybe it's just because we've gotten to see them against such a top quality team that exposure feels so intense right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think I agree with you. Like it feels really, I would feel really concerned, or they'd be the team that I maybe be most excited to bet against in the first round of the playoff.
Yeah.
Like especially if they have a home game, like if they're a 7 seed or an 8 seed, and they're hosting Alabama or BYU or someone like that. It's like, please, I'm taking the dogs on that game. So
Yeah, but the thing is, they also feel like the team that if they were the team getting matched up with the Group of 5 team, they're the team I'm most confident would handle the Group of 5 team. Like I just like think that like their simple stuff would work. Like Nick
yeah,
Singleton off tackle, like tight end middle of the field, like that stuff. It just would work against like these like, yeah, I don't know, like kind of like non-premier schools, Group of 5 like teams. So, but yeah, when it comes to like these real games, man, you watch them, you're like, okay, this team they don't really you need something crazy to happen. You need like them to like keep it close, and then like something really wild happen for you to actually trust that they have a chance. And I thought that was the case Saturday with Ohio. I thought it was like gonna be that, and it ended up not. So
Yeah, and I think I mean, we've gone about 12 minutes here, and we haven't talked about the hometown team. Somehow, Michael Myers, you can't freaking kill him. First rankings, Vanderbilt tried to do it to him. Uh, who else? Who else they lose to? I'm already losing track. Tennessee can't do it to him. Their 2 losses in October for the first time in 17 years, and they're still in the picture. They're still in the picture. The Alabama Crimson Tide coming in at number 11. You think is this another conspiracy? Andrew, what do you have to say?
that's not conspiracy though, right? That's just smart.
I guess my question is, does Alabama make it in there in the world where Texas A&M didn't lose to South Carolina?
No, I mean Texas A&M is in. They're probably in the 7, 8, 9 range if they don't lose to if they don't lose to South Carolina this week. So that'd be which I guess technically would mean that Boise would have been the first team out. So I guess maybe still they would.
Yeah, but it feels like they would have put. It feels like they would have just kicked.
Boise
Bama.
still would have been 12, though. I feel like
Yeah.
somebody else would have been 11.
Right.
Alabama not being one of them.
Everybody else would have moved back. A&M would have been like 7 or 8. Boise would have been at 12. Yeah, I agree. Agree with you, Clem.
Yeah, it's a good thought.
Yeah.
So you're
goofy A&M.
They lost by what? 3 touchdowns?
Oh yeah, I mean it was like 40-something to 20-something, man.
Yeah, I mean just exposed.
44 to 20. 44 to 20 was the final.
Yeah. So, which I guess this, if this were to break down for today, if the playoff were after this first ranking, the 4 byes would belong to Oregon, Georgia, Miami, and BYU. So, but BYU, I think they come in at number 9. This makes the Big 12 really vulnerable to lose that first round bye spot. So, because of Iowa State's upset to Texas Tech last Saturday, of loss by BYU, even in the regular season, much less in the conference championship game, vaults Boise State into that 4th spot, into that bye. And it's hard to imagine them raising a 2-loss Iowa State, a 2-loss Kansas State, a 2-loss Colorado above any of those teams, above Boise State.
So with Boise State, would they be afforded a home game as well?
In the event that they seed, yes, they would be. Yeah,
that's crazy. That's crazy.
Could you imagine number 4 Boise State hosting, number 5 Penn State in the second round?
Man,
that would be, or number 5 Texas, if Texas was the 5 seed.
Golly.
That'd be wild.
Yeah, Texas would smack them boys around. Just letting you know that.
I guess technically it would be Ohio State in this rendition of things. They'd be the 5 seed. Yeah. So
imagine if that's like a Sun Belt team one year though.
That'd be amazing. Yeah. The day that's a Sun Belt team, I don't care who it is, we're going.
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
Louisiana, wherever we got to go.
So I didn't check the 13 through 16, but these are the 4 teams that I had on the bubble before the rankings came out that were in that first 4 out category. Would have been SMU, who I'm pretty sure is at 13, LSU, A&M, and then Iowa State. Would have been those next 4 out.
Yeah, SMU.
I was watching live. I'm pretty sure A&M and SMU were the first 2 teams out.
Yeah. SMU's lurking, bro. Them boys are licking their chops for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, they don't have another serious test until conference championship game.
Right.
Presumably.
So they're running the table and banking on losses. That's what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Moose, I have a question for you because the analysts were saying, like McElroy and all them were saying this during the live feed. They were like, I don't get why SMU's on the bubble but Army's at 25 when they were apparently the analysts were saying SMU and Army are essentially in the same exact spot right now.
So SMU's only loss is to BYU, who's number 9 in the country.
I guess
Army's
I'm just
undefeated.
asking why they're comparing those two teams.
Yeah, I'm not sure, man. They might have some strength of schedule numbers that they could be looking at. Army's strength of schedule numbers are like comically bad. The American Conference is really down because of all the conference realignment.
Yeah.
But I'm not really sure why they would be saying that. I mean, I think I just see it differently from them. SMU, I mean, that they dominated another undefeated team in Pitt in a way that Army hasn't gotten to play anybody of that caliber. If they do that to Notre Dame next week when they play them,
And
then I would say
you gotta shoot them up so high. It's going to be insane. If Army
yeah,
handles Notre Dame like in a crazy way, the committee's going to be pissed.
right. That's going to put them in a bind they don't want to be in.
Yeah.
So, but I think I mean, I would be really excited about that. I'd love to see that chaos. But yeah, I mean,
Do we devote time to Colorado now?
Yeah,
I think it's time, right?
Yeah, it's fine with me. How do you feel about Colorado, producer Clem?
I mean, if they beat Texas Tech this weekend, it's cake to the title game.
Yeah, I haven't looked at. I can't
Conference
remember
title
their last 2 games, but yeah, this feels like the big roadblock. I think Texas Tech still has a pathway to the conference title game themselves, so they're not even just party crap.
This game is at Texas Tech.
This is the biggest game at Texas Tech since the Crabtree game.
Since Crabtree, yeah.
And,
yeah.
I mean, Colorado.
And it would
Colorado,
be Kansas
the rest
State,
of the way,
right?
They got to play Utah. They get Utah at home after Texas Tech. They get Kansas at Kansas, and they finish with Oklahoma State at home. So, beginning of the season, that Utah game felt way more terrifying. That Oklahoma State game felt like it was going to be, hey, if Colorado actually becomes something like this will end up being like the clash of the two teams in the conference. And surprisingly, the Texas Tech game is probably the most important out of those last 3 because even the Kansas squad has completely kind of fell apart.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that would be so fun. I would love the longer that Colorado can stay relevant, the more fun.
Yeah.
Like I'm all for that. So for them to sneak in as like a highest or like a 5th conference champion, and for just the media circus that would be surrounding a first round playoff game that Deion Sanders is involved in would make it all worth it. Talk about some like flashing the money sign, like the playoff committee would be loving that.
What would be amazing would be like if Miami and Colorado matched up in the playoffs.
Man,
you have never seen as many celebrities that would be on the sidelines of that game. Like
Irvin would be on first take.
You've never seen it. Every Miami player will be back. I mean, like you may even have some of like the Florida State guys that just like love Deion will be there, but all of those Miami guys will be there. Irvin will be there. The Clinton Portises, the Ray Lewises, like Hester, all those guys would be there. Like it would be insane, bro. Not to mention all the NFL guys who just absolutely love Shedeur and Cam Ward. Like they will be there too, and Travis Hunter.
Oh,
you won't even need an offensive or defensive line in that game. You might as well just play 7-on-7.
Yeah, that's a 7.
They would only be throwing the ball
for sure. Yeah, Shiloh's getting destroyed that game.
we can take this out if this is a bad question, but would there be like a bigger game that like for like black culture than Miami, Colorado?
That's what I was. There's not a possible one now. No, that would be the game. I wanted to go ahead and just name that. Hey, this is the blackest game that you could get, and it would just. And honestly, that's great for numbers, bro. Like if Stephen A. just ran with it and was just like, yo, this is the blackest we're getting in like the college football like playoff layout. But dude, it would be amazing.
Yeah,
culture, so much culture.
Obama shows up.
Obama's definitely the builder for that game. Definitely.
Oh man! So by my calculations, very unofficially, there are 22 teams still alive. So 22 teams that have like an outside shot of getting in. So, and I think there are once again, by my unofficial calculations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they have a really realistic shot of being eliminated this week. So, and two of those teams play
and
each other.
LSU and Bama are
Mm-hmm. So I think this is. I mean, you guys know that I've been loving this elimination season. Like November is just like the best time for college football, and we get to have a really true loser leaves town match on Saturday night in Death Valley. We were one of the narratives about this 12-team playoff is that it was going to strip meaning from the regular season.
Yeah,
that was one of the fears. And this is an example of the exact opposite.
Right.
Since when could two-loss Alabama, two-loss LSU matter this much?
Golly, bro.
Then this is a playoff game. This is an extra playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess maybe we could say a play-in game.
Play-in game.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is gonna have full play-in feel. Like it's gonna be nasty, bro. It's gonna be a nasty game.
Yeah.
I think this is like in the same way that I told you the way I felt about the LSU and A&M game. Like this is hey boys, let's just let it fly. This is one of those games. I think this just smells like shootout territory to me. I don't think this is the old Alabama LSU kind of matchups that combined for 9 points. Like I think this one can like really really go the distance. And if you're DeBoer, and this is another. DeBoer unfortunately is having kind of weeks like this every single week. But like this is like hey, like what can you do? Like again, I still think that his script first half against Georgia was one of the most impressive scripts of the season, and we haven't seen anything close to it since that week. So this is another kind of chance for him to kind of like display that a little bit. And then Kelly kind of feels like his path and like just his path to the SEC and being at LSU. He just feels like Mario Kart, and maybe he's always in like seventh to like third place, and every time he gets like to third, he gets hit with a freaking turtle shell. He spins out and he's back. And I think he's just learning that. You know what I mean? Like he's just learning like it really is like a gauntlet. And it's so different than Notre Dame,
Yeah, and I think for Alabama, if you're a fan doing your kind of best case scenario, this is if you win this game, you're and you can kind of coast, you're almost guaranteed a home playoff game.
Yeah,
and you get to miss the trade-off is that you're probably going to miss the conference championship either way.
Yep, that's the best case scenario. You got to play Auburn, but that would be best case scenario.
Yeah, so you're looking at because Tennessee or Georgia obviously are going to lose at least one more game,
right?
And if that's Tennessee, then they're going to fall behind Alabama for a second loss, which is weird considering that Tennessee has the head-to-head.
Mm-hmm.
But then if it's Georgia with their second loss, they're going to they should fall behind Alabama too, because they had matchup.
Right.
So there's just these scenarios are going to have to play themselves out. But this brings us to Georgia, who is in a very real situation of losing this weekend to one of the hottest offenses in college football with Ole Miss.
Yeah.
So what Jackson Dart's stat line was 500 yards passing, I think, last week with 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So they're cooking right now.
He's going for 370.
Yeah.
That should be I don't know what the prop is, but it shouldn't be anything below 350. He is launching that thing. And this is just like Kiffin and like in I have nothing to lose games. He's the king of that, Like just like let me come and like spoil the party, like one of those type like spaces. I don't know. It just, and again the whole Carson Beck part of this is just another thing. Like Ole Miss may get another player during the game if Carson Beck is playing the way he played against Florida,
Yeah. But will it be enough though? If I learned anything from the Texas game
is the defense could shut down everything.
Right. Yeah. Does Carson Beck's how bad does Carson Beck have to play if their defense plays like they have been performing the last several weeks?
Right. But did you watch?
Which
Did you watch the Georgia-Florida game?
I got to watch some of it, yeah.
Okay.
And I know that what I did watch was that Lagway was like he was doing really well until he got hurt. He was
Yeah.
managing the game, moving them up and down the field. Yeah, yeah. This one feels like more and more of a toss up to me, man. This is not cut and dry for Georgia. This feels way different than maybe I would have expected pre-Saturday.
Right.
Because Georgia did not have that get right game like they needed against Florida.
Yep.
So and this is in Oxford too.
I was just about to ask you where this game was.
Yeah. So in Oxford, you think about 2015 Alabama coming to town, the Bo Wallace game, and just what that environment will be like.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think I have the stones to pick Ole Miss. I think I'm still going to pick Georgia to win, but man, I don't feel good about it at all. So, and then I feel the same. Maybe so. What would be y'all's predictions on both SEC matchups this weekend?
I mean, I'm always riding with Bama, so that's a.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm riding with Bama and Ole Miss. I mean, I just think this is also is just dude, Kylie, it's so crazy because I think about like how passionately I was able to like talk about that Georgia team after the Texas game a couple weeks ago because of how insane the defense was. Um, and I don't know, just if that makes me wonder like how much more of that was about like even in that game, how much more of that was like Quinn Ewers like pissing himself. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, the Georgia defense was dominant, but also could there have been a counter? So anyway, but I'm picking Ole Miss. I don't think Georgia is coming into Oxford with anywhere near the same level of an intimidation, like just factor that they've been in previous years. You know, like you probably I think had Ole Miss fans go into this game 2-3 years ago and are like, yeah, man, maybe it'll be cool and we'll leave in the third. You know, like, but maybe the first half will be fun, but they've already kind of made up in their minds, hey, like we're out of there soon, and I just don't think, again, especially not coming off of this Florida game, that Georgia has that anymore, or they don't have that right now. And again, and I'm a Bama fan who is like seeing like when Bama doesn't have that, the teams that are ready to get their get back, they get it. Like if Bama's coming into your place and they don't have the like soul intimidation piece of it, and there's like these teams that feel like wild cards, or the coaches that feel like wild cards, or the individual players that have a little wild card to them, like they just get those games. And in the SEC, it feels like even more likely for that to happen. So yeah, with Ole Miss, and with Bama because I'm loyal.
yeah. I mean, the Ole Miss win throws just another wrench into the playoff scenario too,
Yeah,
because that's going to definitely vault them into the top 12,
yeah.
and that means someone's going to get kicked out. So, what about you, Andrew? Do you feel the same way about Alabama and Ole Miss, or are you
Absolutely not. Um, I mean, I don't see why just because like I don't know if it feels like sure. Okay, I'll start with Georgia, Ole Miss. Sure, maybe Georgia has lost the intimidation factor that they've had the past 3 or 4 seasons. But this feels like the perfect spot after 2 or 3 weeks of Carson Beck struggle games to like get that back. Like, I don't know, just gutturally,
Mm.
a little callback. It feels like this feels like the perfect game for the like we're gonna remind you that we're Georgia. That just this game just has that feel to me at least.
Yeah.
So that's actually my play of the week. I mean, I got Georgia minus 2.5.
That's
Wow, what a
great.
segue!
What a segue. He set it up perfectly.
And then I will also ride with Bama out of loyalty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if Carson Beck comes in and it's like locked in, and yeah, I mean, like if Carson Beck is going to play to the level that I think he's capable of playing, great. Like then, like yeah, let's go ahead and give Kirby another ring while we're at it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like, if he's going to be the Carson Beck he's been this season, because I think even in the games that they've won, like. And even in the games where like I mean, the point differential was nice. We just hadn't seen it yet, and I feel like an idiot because I have gassed him up. Like I've gassed him up on this pod. I've gassed him up in the conversations after church. Like I've been really big on like the Beck like part of this, and it's just, dude, he is like literally out there. It feels like he has money on the spread. It's insane what he's been doing the last few weeks, bro. It's insane.
And I think I'm still going
Yeah.
to take Georgia.
Yeah.
So, and I think I'm just, in light of what I learned from these like missteps the last few weeks or the first few big games, I feel like I got back right when I picked Ohio State over Penn State, and I think I'm gonna do the same with Georgia and Ole Miss. I'm gonna take the defense and the pedigree over uh, over what I think might actually, like I guess like the hot hand theory. I'm gonna bet against the hot hand theory.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm gonna take Alabama on the road in Death Valley. And I think if it was a Saban coach team, I would just feel super awesome about it. But because it's not,
Yeah.
I don't feel that great about it.
Yeah. Same here, buddy.
So,
It's
with
round
Saban winning
robin
Boston,
in the SEC, man. I just again like this. It's we just if whatever happens Saturday, I won't be surprised. That's literally where I am with SEC. That's just what it is, right? Kentucky lost to Georgia by a point, lost to Vandy by 7 points, beat Ole Miss. You know what I mean? Like Mississippi State hung up what almost 30 something points on the Georgia defense. You know, like the pedigree defense that shut down Texas, right? We said after they steamrolled Texas the other day, hey, they're about to be get rolling. Then they pissed their pants against Florida. We just don't know what's happening. We just don't like it's every single game. If you just go to Bleacher Report on Saturdays, type in go to that filter, go to SEC, you're just gonna laugh every single week. You're never gonna go 100% on SEC.
yes, the Rookery Podcast channel presented by Bleacher Report. We'll be back right after this.
Hit our line, Bleacher Report, please. Hit it.
But okay, and now we're really back to talk about NFL tiers. So I've got essentially 3 tiers for each conference in terms of like playoff contenders that I wanted to run by you guys and hear your disagreement or agreement. So if I'm not mistaken, the way the tier system works is that the top tier is always the S tier, right?
Yep.
Am I plugged in? Okay. So for the NFC, I've only got one team in the S tier, and that's the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
So they seem like they're in a class by themselves. Do y'all see it the same way?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think they've just knocked off every top team that's been in their path other than the Buccaneers, who are a different team than they are right now when they played them. So, and they're doing on their receiver, and they're just continually finding ways just to creatively humiliate defenses. Whether it's Penei Sewell getting touchdowns or whatever, they're awesome. They're so fun to watch. So I think they're head and shoulders above everyone else in the NFC right now. So, which is weird when you look at the standings. Every NFC race is currently tight in a way that the AFC races aren't. So because the Lions only lead by 1 game in the North, and then the East has Washington and Philadelphia, both with 2 losses. So anyway, which I have one of those teams in my next tier. I've got Green Bay, Minnesota, and Washington in the second tier. Would that be the A tier? Am I still tracking with the? Okay.
Now it's just alphabetical after S.
Okay, got it. So A tier, I've got Green Bay, Minnesota, and Washington, Would y'all remove anyone from that? I feel like Minnesota would be the team most likely on the chopping block from that group.
I guess it would be Green Bay for me.
Yeah, which Minnesota does have the head-to-head win over them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I don't trust Sam Darnold more than I trust Jordan Love, but I trust Minnesota more than I trust Green Bay. I don't know if that's fair to say.
Yeah,
But yeah, I don't know. Part of that is I'm probably being too critical of Green Bay because of like the uh, just the injuries and the fact they just traded one of their pass rushers, D lineman. Um, but yeah, I think I would. I'm probably chopping Green Bay before Minnesota. I don't know what Clem was about to say. I don't know if he agreed or disagreed.
No, I initially was going to disagree. I was going to say like Minnesota's the one on the bubble of the A tier, but then I remembered that Green Bay just got drugged by Detroit literally this weekend. So that was in a rainy game with a hurt Jordan Love, but still.
Yeah.
Has Minnesota and Detroit played yet?
yes, Detroit.
And they also lost pretty handedly to the Lions as well, right? Or was it
It was
close?
close.
It was close.
It was.
Okay.
That was 2 weeks ago. Was that Thursday night game?
It wasn't Thursday night, but it was. Yeah, but it was 2 weeks ago, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, which is, I mean, the craziest part about this is that the Washington Commanders are the second or third best team in the NFC right now.
And just
None
got-
of us.
For the record, I don't know if they do play each other. Or maybe it would be in the title game or something. The NFC title. Like Detroit would drag the Washington Commanders as well.
Well, I think this is the whole exercise, right? Of the tiers is that we're agreeing that they're, because they are head and shoulders above, we would pick them against anyone, and it's
Right.
not even close. And they're showing. I mean, they've already beaten two of these teams in the next tier.
Yeah.
In the next tier. So, which brings us down to the B tier. We've got maybe one of these teams that we already talked about, but I think who else we have in there is San Francisco, Atlanta, Philadelphia, and then the Rams. So, which I think the Rams, I put a question mark beside them because I think it might just be like personal touch that I find them to be maybe that they'll be the biggest surprise of the second half. That they're ramping up at the perfect time to go 11-6 and maybe win the division. And
Yeah.
so I haven't looked at their schedule, but I think that their track record just shows how potent their offense can be over the last several years when everyone's healthy.
Yeah.
That's just a big question mark to me. So, but yeah, like the other teams, San Francisco, Atlanta, and Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
Would you guys throw anyone else in there? Arizona, Seattle, Tampa Bay. It gets pretty bleak.
No, it's funny too because that tier is like those are three very different styles, like styles of just teams. And yeah, I mean, I think all three of those teams, honestly, there's a world in which all three of those teams are like making arguments to jump up to that next tier.
Mm-hmm.
Like certainly San Francisco here. Like if they, who knows? I mean, they literally, I don't. I mean, their locker room's an infirmary at this point. But like, if they can get healthy and stay healthy for a stretch, like they could. We've just seen them be dominant. I don't doubt that they could like regain some dominance. Atlanta is such a like weird team that can they just like I don't think they're super like fun to play because if you do make mistakes on offense, you can take shots against them, but if you make mistakes on offense, like Kirk and those guys typically are trying to they're just gunning for the end zone, and they've got so many playmakers. But Drake London's injured, you know what I mean? So that adds another wrinkle. And then who was the other team you put in there? Philly,
which I was out on them just 2 weeks ago, and they just are trending in the right direction offensively,
and
which is what we
and defensively. Their secondary, that boy, our boy Cooper, Iowa's finest. Yeah, he's become a playmaker for the defense. And they're finally, it feels like just I don't know, finally feel like they're doing some stuff on both sides of the ball, even though we all still hate their coach so much. So.
Yeah. I think that the most consequential game this week for this NFC kind of rankings picture is the Rams game. The Rams play the Dolphins on Monday night, and I think we'll find out a lot about the Rams because the Dolphins are essentially playing for their season.
Yeah.
They're if they go 2-7, then it's over.
Yeah.
So they're going to get the Dolphins' best shot, and I think this is going to be one of those high scoring, really fun fantasy games to end the week.
I hope so, man. I hope so.
I know you do. You got a lot of stock invested in old Tyreek. It hasn't paid off for you yet, but I think maybe the only other contender for most consequential would be San Francisco against Tampa Bay. Another team, Tampa Bay, that looks like they could be dead in the water with another loss. And then on the 49ers side, they've got McCaffrey coming back. And depending on how healthy he is and how he looks and his role, could totally turn the narrative about their team.
Right.
So
Baker's fun though, man. Baker, even without his guys, he's fun, bro.
yeah.
So much respect for Baker Mayfield. Who would have thought?
And then the AFC things seem a little simpler and a little shorter. So it's a little more crowded at the top in this S tier. I've got 3 teams as opposed to 1.
I like it. I'm curious about what the third team is. Let's go.
It's Kansas City, Buffalo, and Baltimore.
Buffalo. Okay, so you still got Buffalo up there. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think as long as they're playing a team that's not the Ravens, they are they're really freaking good.
Yeah.
And obviously be another team, or they're gonna have another test against Kansas City here. I think maybe it's next week that they play,
mm-hmm.
and that might expose them again. But I think that they're the team on the bubble from the S tier for sure. But you probably wouldn't have them there at all at the way that you kind of are reacting to it.
Yeah, they just be A tier for me. I just think.
Yeah.
I feel like Baltimore and Kansas City are just. Yeah, I mean they're just both teams are on a tear. I mean, just the fact that it was last week. I was already thinking like, when are the kind of like talking heads going to bring up? Wait, could Kansas City go just completely undefeated? And now it's like one of the bigger things of the week. But Baltimore, bro. I mean, Baltimore they're just getting it done. They look better literally every single week in my opinion.
Yeah, when's the last time that a team had 2 MVP candidates on the field at the same time? I don't feel like that's a normal storyline in NFL offenses.
Yeah, I think Lamar's leading the league in passing touchdowns and passer rating, and Derrick Henry is leading the league in rushing touchdowns and rushing yards. It's just like, I mean, and you do all that with quietly like Zay Flowers having an insane season. And he's been literally insane the last few weeks. And the defense is just who did they just trade for today? Who did they get?
Oh gosh, I know that I saw the trade, but I've lost who it is.
So, but like again, and they're making the point is they made a legitimate like contender move at the deadline. You know what I mean? To like make their team even better. So yeah, they're good, bro.
They weren't the ones that got Marshawn Lattimore, were they?
No, that's the Commanders.
Commanders got them, yeah.
Okay.
If they would have got Marshawn Lattimore, it would have been over. Absolutely over.
So the only other 2 teams that I have even worth talking about right now in the A tier are Pittsburgh and Houston.
Yeah.
I think the drop off in the AFC is so stark that it's
Houston's on the A to B bubble for me.
Me too.
Stroud looked bad the past couple weeks.
Yeah. I saw the meme today. Bryce Young was like, "Hey, Stroud, how does it feel to have a bad O line and 0 receivers?" But yeah, he doesn't look great without Nico and his O line. I mean, his O line isn't helping him out. Like that's a real thing. Like his O line has been bad the last few weeks. Like PFF grades have been low and all of that. But he's missing a guy that I think is now a top 3, top 4 receiver in the NFL, undoubtedly. Too, So like if they get Nico back and Nico's healthy, that changes things fast.
Yeah, he's definitely been underrated, victim of the injuries around him. Stroud has.
Yeah.
I don't think there's been like a lot of national talk about the skill positions guys that he's losing, especially Stephon Diggs kind of going out last week, or 2 weeks ago.
I forgot about that. Man. Yeah.
Yeah, they guys. So yeah, and then Pittsburgh, I think they were on a bye this most recent week, but the fact that we're having this conversation with them now that they're the only team on this list, obviously, that has the quarterback uncertainty, that doesn't have an elite quarterback in the AFC, and I'm just shocked that they're still hanging around, and they have a huge game this week against Washington. Just a really, really fun top 10 matchup, I guess, of NFL teams.
Yeah.
That I'm really excited to watch. 2 A-tier teams. This is really fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you get the really high-powered offense with Washington going up against this legacy defense, and in a way they'll be really exciting.
Yeah.
So, which you could maybe throw that in the category of most consequential game. But I think I'm going to go with the Ravens versus Bengals game on Thursday night. Just a really fun game. Obviously, the last time they matched up, 41-38 in overtime. Just the ball being thrown all over the field, so fun. And I doubt we get that level of game again, but like I'm locked in for Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean their first game, that was that game of the season. We definitely said it was game of the season when it happened. Is it still game of the season?
I mean, you could put the Bears Commanders game up there for the ending, the quality of the ending.
Yeah.
So, but in terms of like just best game, I'd say it's it's close. Or if it's not one, then it's two. And I can't think of number two right now.
Right.
So, yeah. Any other thoughts? Any other fantasy tips, fantasy plays before we move on from the NFL?
Lot of injured running back rooms. Buy those RB1s, man. If you're playing dynasty ball, whereas the language for the last few years has been like wide receivers are the best currency. Right now, I'm a big fan of running backs being just insane currency in dynasty leagues. And if you can stack up 6 or 7 of them that are like starters, you just do it. Which I think actually I've seen like people have pulled that off. Matt Bolger has pulled that off. You know what I mean? there's a way to like get away with that. And yeah, and if you're in a dynasty league where you have the ability to get a full running back committee of a good or a team that's like good at running the ball, you do that too. The obvious one is Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery. You get both of them. But there's other places. Like if you can get Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet, you do it. You know what I mean? Like if you can have Chase Brown and now Khalil Herbert, you do it. Like you just do that.
Yeah. Yeah, Bucky and Rashad.
Bucky and Rashad is a perfect one. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we'll take one more break and then we'll come back with a little NBA check-in.
Yep.
All right, and we are back. Finishing up Tuesday night, election night. We wanted to do a little NBA fast break. So
3-man weave.
The 3-man weave, perfect. I brought a stat that I thought was just interesting and worthy of discussion, and I hope you guys maybe found something too that kind of unveils a little bit of what's been peculiar about the NBA season so far, I guess 2 weeks in. So here's mine. So the Warriors, as you guys know, love the Warriors. They've made 103 threes in the first 6 games, and that is a franchise record to begin the season. Think about this. The Warriors, from the last 10 years, literally ushered in the 3-ball revolution, have hit more threes in the first 6 games this year without Klay Thompson, and when Steph Curry missed 3 of those 6 games.
Yeah, but say also without Steph. Yeah.
So the main contributor to this is Buddy Hield.
Mm-hmm.
I think he broke a franchise record himself personally for most threes to start the season from a Warrior, which once again is another crazy thing. But I think it's even more emblematic of just the shift that we were highlighting at the beginning of the year of like every team saying that they're going to shoot more threes.
Yeah.
So the fact that the Warriors are hitting, my quick math, that's 13, 14 threes a game. like that's what they're hitting. No, it's even more than that. It's more like 17 threes a game.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're doing that and they're not like prolific in like they're not at the top tier of who's the best 3-point shooting team in the league, it's pretty crazy. So, and I'm having a lot of fun with the Warriors right now. I just need to say that out loud. 5-1. Uh, it it feels like 2022 a little bit.
Who
The
are your favorite
vibes are
favorite
so.
no favorite players non-Curry?
Oh man, I love Moses and Lindy. Moses, Moody, and Lindy
Lindy
Waters.
Waters?
Yes.
Oh, man, it's just so funny that guy is a real contributor now. He used to have a bronze my team card on like 2K22 or 3, like, which means you're just like one of the worst players in the league. So if Michael, if you're listening to this, I would imagine you remember Lindy Waters, but
Yeah.
yeah, just that's
Um,
so crazy, man. That he's
uh,
like a real player now.
yeah. I mean, and obviously Pajemski and Trace Jackson Davis.
Yeah, Trace Jackson Davis is dude. He just if you throw it, he's getting it. He's like
Yeah.
he has that. Some of those guys have this ability, like when they like catch oops, they just look like it's not just that they look like they're higher. I mean, they're obviously higher in the air, but they look bigger. Like he looks like he becomes. He looks like he grows another 3-4 inches when he catches an oop. It's the same thing like Sean Kemp used to have. You know, like Sean Kemp was only like 6'9". When he caught oops, he looked 7 foot. Trace Jackson Davis has that.
Yeah. I get the every time I see him and Pajemski run a pick and roll together, they just feel like they should have like an like 90s sitcom or like a 90s like buddy cop recurring series on CBS. Just the yin and yang of those two is so satisfying.
You should suggest that.
I'll write the screenplay for it, me and Andrew.
Let's
So
do it.
Suggest was really hard with my list right there. That was really difficult.
yeah. What about you, Myles? You got a stat that was interesting to you?
Yeah, I mean, I heard it from it was either KOC or the guy that was on with them, but just that Buck stat. Um, so the other night they played the Grizzlies. Ja had a triple double. That in itself should be insane. Ja had a triple double against Brook Lopez and Giannis, which meant he got double digit rebounds. But the crazier thing was I think they allowed 68 points in the paint. The Bucks did.
Wow.
Which is an insane number, especially if you're using that as kind of like this backdrop for like the statement you just made about how many teams are just married to the three, right? Like being able to like to dominate inside like that is really, really crazy. All right, how many times do you think that happened over the course of just games where Giannis and Brook Lopez played together during during the Bud era?
Yeah. Is it a percentage or an actual number?
An actual number of times it happened where they allowed that many points.
If you're looking at 80 games a year for 3 or 4 years,
Yeah,
I mean, it's got to be less than 20.
it's freaking zero, bro. It's so much less than 20. It's the first time ever. So just like it. I
Wow.
heard that and was like really, really initial. I was baffled by the initial number, like hearing them say like how many points that the Grizzlies scored in the paint, but then them like really, really digging into that stat and just bringing up the fact that it had never happened to them before is it's really, really crazy, bro. Like it really is like I don't know. I mean, this Bucks team is. It just feels like it's over. It just feels like it's over. Like I don't know what would be the move. I don't know what would have to happen in the locker room. I don't know who would have to be fired and then who would have to be hired for them to turn things around. And everything I'm hearing from like analysts and people talking about them is like the things they need to like fix and change. And I literally don't see how any of them are possible. Right? Like regardless if that's because of like the new CBA stuff or that's because of like the actual like on court product. Then we get the update about Middleton today. Like, dude, this dude may not come back until like March, and it's just they just don't have it. And the reason that's a big deal is because Giannis is going to be somewhere else. Like Giannis is going to be on another team. And if Giannis is on another team, Damian Lillard's going to be on another team. And if Damian Lillard and Giannis are on another team and they happen to go to the right teams, that's just gonna affect like the kind of like the layout of this league. Like it's going to affect some of these divisions and some of these win totals and some of the playoff seeding. Like those two guys going if they end up going to the right places. So that's yeah. I mean, I thought that stat was crazy in itself. I thought that stat was crazier because of like the picture it painted for where the Bucks are, and if that's where the Bucks are, then there's just going to be some like real buyers. I texted my brother and was like, "Yo, just about the OKC part of it, you know." And of course, I'm super irrational, so I was like on Trade Machine looking at, wait, how could the Lakers acquire Damian Lillard? You know what I mean? And like, how could the Bucks absorb like this D'Angelo Russell contract on top of like draft picks and whoever else to get stuff done? But yeah, it's just wow, man, wow. Because I also I went in that Excel sheet before the season started, and I put the Bucks as the number 1 seed. They're awful. Doc Rivers is so bad. I can't believe the state of this roster. I can't believe how bad their defense is. It's just sad.
Yep. As is becoming the moral of this season, the winner of most things is the Boston Celtics.
Yeah,
which is one of my least favorite stats.
That's one of my least favorite sentences.
I did see an article on Bleacher Report this afternoon about how the Warriors must chase Giannis, and that did not get my my imagination in a good place. It felt like too good to be true. So
I mean, but you're sending 6 players to do it, right?
yeah, which is you're gutting the team to do it, which it's Giannis, and you could have him for the next 7 years.
Yeah. So
and
you trade 6 players for Giannis. You call, I don't know, you call Manu Ginobili, who still is playing in Argentina. You call DeMarcus Cousins. You call Dwight Howard. You call Sasha Vujicic.
Matthew Dellavedova.
You call Mikael Petrus. You call all these guys. You need people you literally can pay the absolute vet minimum, like to get it done. So
yeah, it would be a terrible the trade off would be really painful.
right.
But I would imagine that they do it in a heartbeat if that's what it took.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. If they say, "Hey, you guys want Giannis?" Yeah, you say how much? Like,
yeah. The better scenario is that Giannis says that I only want to go to the Warriors, or this is the team. This is my preferred team, and he's got so much cachet and goodwill that they do it for him.
I think Giannis goes to I think Giannis goes to either. I really think Dallas. I think he either goes to Dallas or the one that maybe it may have been KOC that was entertaining the Wemby, him going to the Spurs.
Oh my god!
But I do think the Texas teams like fit him. I just can see Giannis in Texas. It feels right.
Well, that would be fun. Wemby and Giannis on the same team would be next level.
Oh man, it'd be amazing, bro. It'd be so amazing.
But okay, I guess that's all on this election night, CFP selection night.
You rapping?
NBA fast break.
Are you rapping?
What? Oh wow, did it sound like it?
Man,
that might be the best compliment I've ever gotten.
Moose the rapper is crazy.
So thank you guys for taking a break from the stress of our imminent doom for a little talk about sports. So this has been the Rookery Podcast channel, and we're going to fade out because we're bougie now.